We are students from Maxwell School, Dwarka, New Delhi, India. Keep watching EDU TV.
Hello everyone, this is Tanya here from EDU TV. I welcome you all to a momentous occasion on EDU TV where knowledge and inspiration converge. Today, I welcome you all with immense pride as we present our episode Schools to Universities, an episode that delves into the transformative journey of education. Joining us today, we have Mr. Naveen Chopra, a distinguished guest who embodies a profound commitment to education, entrepreneurship, and global collaboration. I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Naveen Chopra, a visionary and founder of TCG, the Chopras Global.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our host for the session for the day is Ms. Seema Kaushik, a pioneer at the Global Indian International School, Singapore, who has a dedicated 14 years of experience in guiding students along with their academic paths and future career journeys. Together, we shall delve into the transformative power of education, exploring how it shapes destinies and forges new horizons. Once again, welcome you all to our program, Schools to Universities. Over to you, Ms. Seema now.
Thank you so much, Tanya, and thanks for inviting me. It's my pleasure to be here and have this interaction with you and Mr. Naveen Chopra. So let's begin. You have such a wonderful profile, and it's very, very impressive. So, I wanted to know what inspired you to establish a global education company, and how does it contribute to the field of education?
Well, I mean, in terms of inspiration, Seema, sometimes life takes over, and it's almost something that's exactly what happened with the way they started. Because I and my wife, we are domiciled in Sydney. We are permanent residents in Australia, and I've been living there since 1981. We were running two companies in Sydney, and in the recession of the early 90s, both the companies suffered because our clients went under, and we didn't get paid, and we had a financial hit. At that time, we started looking at the service industry, and when we advertised for jobs in the local papers for our company for work at our warehouse in Smithfield, which is very near the University of Western Sydney in Sydney. I started getting applications or applicants who were Indian students. And that's when I became aware of the fact that there was a student flow that was starting to emerge as a global trend. And especially then out of India, which had opened up its economy. So I then picked up the phone and spoke to, I still remember, John Duncan at Monash. I received such a warm response from him, because he was kind of saying things like, oh, we are sick and tired of our representatives who are misleading and miscounseling students and stuff like that. And you guys are from here, you know our culture and so on and so forth. We'd love to work with you. And I made another 8-10 calls, and all of them I got the same kind of a response from. So we, holding a clutch of agreements, we arrived in Delhi, and today started this business in a small business center, about 90 square foot office, where I and my wife Natasha Chopra sat. And today, with God's grace and a lot of hard work and so on, the company grew pre-COVID to 22 cities, 600 staff, and so on. And, and as far as the second part of your question is concerned, how do we impact on
the field of education?
Education. Look, Seema, the first job that I see as our job is to expand the thinking horizon of students, parents, and education institutions. For example, when we arrived in India at the time in 1995, Indian students, parents, and indeed in school sector, they were only talking of 10 to 12 careers. You become a chartered accountant, become a banker, become a civil servant, sit for the civil services, become a lawyer, join the armed forces. So there was just a very, very limited space. And I had been living, and I had extensive exposure of having lived and worked in New York for 4 odd years, which way back in '73. And then I came back for family reasons. I then went back again, went to London, worked there for a firm of financial consultants, and arrived in New Zealand, spent a few months there, and then arrived in Sydney, Australia. So very wide, varied, and intense exposure globally. And I was seeing such pace of change accelerating that I was very concerned. I'm very passionate about our civilization, and India is a civilization, it's not a country. I went on literally a crusade with all the school principals that I could possibly connect with and talk to. And ended up, telling them that, look, I mean, unless they injected a wider conversation, India was going to be left even far further behind than it already was. So before us, in actual fact, there was no school counselor in almost any school in India. Today, almost all schools have school counselors. So in that sense, I think that our contribution was quite major. And then students today are looking for and entering courses that are such a wide range. And indeed, the private university sector, India, the first private university, or one of the first private universities, was Amity, which came up around about the same time as our presence. I like to think or believe that we impacted on the entire sector to the extent that the course mix has changed, wider courses. When we came before us, Indian curriculums were fixed and remained fixed for years, for decades. Today, they have become more dynamic. They are changing. They are shifting. As a matter of fact, recently I was invited by the Indian government body that was looking at cross accreditation credit transfers. And now the Indian government has approved, the process where Indian institutions will recognize overseas, credit, so credit transfers can happen easier, smoother. So we'd like to think we've had some impact.
Thank you so much. That's very inspirational story. And Mr. Naveen Chopra, I think you're doing a very, very meaningful work. And I personally feel that, I've been from the similar kind of background where, we hardly had any counselors in school and, nobody to guide us. There were like very, fixed traditional courses available. So I would like to understand from you, how do you think the career counseling can make a difference in students' lives? Like every school now has a career counselor. So how do you think this is making difference in students' lives now?
Well, I think the first thing is that there is a conversation where, again, the term I use, expanding the thinking horizon of students and parents. It is now become, in fact, critical, because the time when I'm referring to, at that time, it wasn't really critical, but the pace of change now has come to a point where no 2 years are alike. So we have now entered an era where a student in year 12 can decide to choose a course at university, thinking that he or she would gain good jobs at the end of that time of 3 or 4 years, the period of the undergrad program. And there are, at the point of choosing the course, there are jobs available, visible, right? But by the time the student graduates, it is entirely possible that that entire field is vanished. There are no jobs left, because artificial intelligence and digitization has already started to decimate jobs. I mean, if you cast your mind back about 4 or 5 years, there was widely published news which was saying that the advent of digitization would impact on about 700 million jobs. That 700 million jobs would vanish from the workforce globally. And that did happen. Although, on the other side, new jobs did get created, but only about 350 odd million jobs got created, or 325, I don't exactly remember now. But that still left a gap of almost 300 million or 325 million jobs, which existed 4 or 5 years ago, that don't exist anymore. Now, that scenario is becoming even more and more embedded, and it has become a massive challenge, because the education system in which we've all grown up was designed, in actual fact, to produce people to fit the needs of the industrial revolution and post-industrial revolution. Okay, now unfortunately, we have moved way past the industrial revolution. We have now moved into a completely digital age and the artificial intelligence age, where the tasks that humans were performing are being rapidly taken over. And not only that, you've got thinking machines. So if machine thinking and machine learning is coming to the extent that it is coming, what are you going to do? So let me give you an example. So back in 95, 96, when I used to talk to students or parents or schools, we used to name 4, 5, 6 careers that we used to think in those days that had lifelong longevity. So for example, a doctor, or if you become a doctor, you're going to be a doctor all your life. But today I ask myself and ask students, is it? Because you are now in an age where you'll have a nano particle or chip inserted into you, or some kind of a watch you will wear on your skin, which will monitor your bodily functions. And the moment there's a chemical imbalance, it will ping a message to a computer system somewhere, which will get back to you and say, hey, this is a chemical imbalance that's happening to you. This is what you need to do. Where is the physician? Physician is gone. Similarly, we already have robotic surgery, but at present, humans are very much in the operation theater and are manipulating the robot or overseeing it. How long before you are wheeled into an operation theater where there's no human and the entire thing is being handled by artificial intelligence and robots? So where is the surgeon? Now, with you look at the legal profession. One used to think that the lawyer was going to be there forever. Is it? I mean, except for the person who goes before the bar and argues, the barrister, all the downline work. Because what is law at the end of the day? Two people are in court. They are picking up case laws that support the proposition that they're putting forward, each of them, and they're then arguing before a judge. The case law, the preparation of the cases is now pretty much going to be artificial intelligence. So where is the lawyer? So in this kind of a framework, my own sense is that it is virtually impossible, and I don't like to use the word impossible. It's virtually impossible for any single individual, to be able to counsel in a manner where the outcome is going to be most of the time positive. So, I mean, I think that we are now in an age where schools, and this is where expanding the thinking horizon thing comes in. Schools also need to think that it can't be just an individual counselor like yourself, for example. You are the counselor at a top school in Singapore, but are you able to read enough all the time? I mean, out there, to the extent of where things are happening, are you able to project and look beyond horizon all the time? So when a student comes and says, Seema ma'am, I want to do chartered accountancy, I mean, can you sort of, project and say that chartered accountancy, I don't know, I mean, is it going to be relevant, 5 years down the track by the time you finish your chartered accountancy? We've entered the age of continuous learning. That's where we are today.
Completely agree to you, Mr. Chopra. Students have to be lifelong learners. And what would you like to advise these students who have to be adaptive to such kind of environments in future? So, of course, they have to keep themselves, they should focus on holistic learning rather than just one particular area, because they have to be flexible. They have to prepare. They have to be prepared for change of careers in their future. So how do you think, what advice would you like to give to students on this?
Well, exactly along the lines of what you've said, that they need to look at their education holistically. And at the same time, of course, it's not the student's responsibility, but it is now a student need, where the education system in schools and universities and colleges has to change. I mean, we've entered an era where at college level, students need to be able to pick and choose different modules from different areas. So if you went into humanities, you should be able to pick up something from engineering, or something from maths, or something from biosciences, or something from somewhere. You make a mix which you study enough in depth enough to be able to play the whatever roles are emerging wherever you're, so that you can fast track your learning into a certain area where you think that you're finding yourself. It's gone beyond likes and dislikes. It's now become a matter of reading what's on the table, and from that what's available on the table, then seeing what you like best and what you don't like. It's a very different world now. I mean, it's just going to be unrecognizable in 5 years' time.
Right. Being from IB school, I can totally relate to it because students in IB, they are learning the language, math, science, humanities. So one subject from each area so that they have that holistic learning.
Yeah,
so that's what the education systems are rapidly, adapting to the changing times.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chopra, I wanted to know from you, what are some of those destinations which are getting more popular and what is the reason behind it? Like some of the destinations like US, UK are getting very, very popular among students. And what do you think? What's the reason behind gaining this popularity?
Seema, USA has always been the country of choice for quite a large number of years. Since and of course Britain is the heart of how the education system in the English-speaking world developed. So the root has come from there. I mean, after all, Oxford and Cambridge are one of the oldest universities, other than Nalanda and Taxila, which are predating them. But the US is popular, or has been popular, largely for 2 or 3 reasons. One is that in the research arena, they are still the leaders in the world. If you think about it, almost all the innovations that have become commercial are known as American innovations, although some of them happened in laboratories in Europe. And they're known as American because quite often American companies would have funded those researches and or been part of, or collaborative part of, within the American institutions and European institutions. So that's one. And then the American system, as you know, in the IB system is very holistic, where the year one you study a very generalized thing, then you start to choose and pick and choose what you want to do in your second, third year. The availability of major and minor subjects is massive. You can pick and choose a lot. So those are some of the factors that have gone into that. And then because it's a massive economy, the engine of the global economy still is, although China is catching up. But China will never be the dream. China will never be the dream. The dream is still the America. China has copied from what I know. I see that it has copied a lot and maybe innovated from that copying, or brought it into commercial production much quicker than the American firms might have, because of cost aspect and stuff like that. But and likewise, those opportunities become available. And currently, as you know, the STEM areas, the science, technology, engineering, maths, there is a shortage. That's going to be perennial. I think that's a shortage that's always going to exist. The United Kingdom, again, huge number of institutions, very old, very established, very high quality, to the extent, and still because it's still state governed and state funded to a large extent, or to some extent, maybe a bit lesser than in the old days. So the quality of education, minimum standards are uniformly high. So if you get past the top end institutions of the Russell Group and the and so on, you still have a large number of institutions that are really good. And will deliver to you really good education in terms of infrastructure. And some of the institutions that are relatively new institutions, who are not, in that ranking game, and it is a game. I mean, rankings are meaningless unless you study the methodology of the ranking. You will still get, excellence in certain areas. Some institutions might be excellent in designs, others may be very good in, certain areas of engineering, and so on and so on. So it's still a complex exercise, and the human mind being what the human mind is, we all tend to pick a group, we get stuck into that group, and then anything outside of that, we start to rubbish it. No, this is not it. But if you do a deep dive, you study the curriculum, the subjects, and you look at the the teachers who are there, which that's what makes a great education, is the teacher and the subject matter of what you're studying. You'll find that the choices are massive, way beyond the ranked preference choice institution. So it's a very wide sector. But then you jump across into Europe, and you jump to Germany. Fantastic education. If a student and also cost effective, because they are still charging you local fees, and sometimes if you learn German, if a student starts to learn German from year 9 onwards or year 8 onwards and becomes proficient up to a certain level, goes to Germany, the education is almost free. In the private education sector, again, fees are not quite as high as they may be somewhere else. So a lot of students are going to European destinations, Scandinavian countries, France, Germany, Italy. If someone talks to me, for example, for design, I would say, well, you should be looking at Italy, you should be looking at France. You think about clothes, designers. You look at car design. You look at perfumes. You think about accessories, your purses and shoes and so on. It's France and Italy that is the inspiration for even the New York designers or the London designers. So there are exceptional pockets of excellence. So as an organization, we grew to a point where we are now counseling and processing 40 countries. China has also jumped into the fray. It's offering cheap, cost-effective medical institute, education. Lots of students are going to China. So it's a wide open world.
Thank you so much for your insights into the different destinations of study. And I totally agree, students should be looking beyond the rankings. I always tell my students that the ranking companies, they have different criterias of ranking, and no two rankings are similar. So definitely you should look beyond ranking and look for a best fit university, which fits your interests, in terms of they could have different interests, they could have different reasons for choosing a university. So I definitely tell my students, go for a best fit university, looking at your budget, your interests, and just don't look at the rankings.
Yes,
so
but Seema, if I may, if you think about it, that let's say a student picks up a very high-end ranked university, but there is ranking is based on research. You suddenly go in there and you find that in research, the university is fantastic, but there is no real pastoral care. There is no real support in the classroom. The professors are more busy in their research. And then for students who need a bit of pastoral care, who need a bit of hand-holding, it may not be the best institution.
Definitely.
So the student's personality has to be factored in by whoever is counseling. And
that's true.
So that's where a lot of, I understand you've traveled a lot, you've gone to a lot of universities and so on. You would have noticed this in your, that some universities have got a lot of support, for and especially undergrad level. Postgrad, okay, it's a different kettle of fish, but undergrad level, many students require that hand-holding. And some are more self-study oriented. So it varies. One glove doesn't fit all.
Truly agree. So basically, students, some of the universities are too large that students, they feel lost in the bigger environment. For them, having a smaller colleges which are giving more personalized support to students, that would make more sense.
Exactly. In the US, community colleges makes a lot of sense for a lot of students. And people sometimes dismiss community colleges out of hand. They can give you a very good education as a stepping stone to the higher ranked institutions at your postgrad level. It's at the postgrad level that it really starts to kick in more than at undergrad level, I think.
Correct. Correct. So what would you, in continuation to this, I would like to ask you, there are some students, some of them, they do identify what they really want to do at their grade 11 or 12. But some of the students are really kind of struggling what they want to do. What would you like to advise to those students who have not figured out what really they want to do in their
I
career?
would advise even those who have figured out, who are absolutely certain about what they've figured out. And I mean, unless of course they are in the STEM area. If any student is studying, science, technology, maths, and engineering, I think that's absolutely, there's no debate or discussion, because from that you can literally go and do anything. I mean, some of the world leaders in the corporate world are engineers. You look at the engineering actually gives you that depth and a solid foundation. But people who are looking at other than the sciences, I think that the first thing they need to do is to step back, expand their thinking, look at other options that are available, look at the bigger palette, so to speak, and then start to plan their undergrad education. And I don't think that anybody should look at specializing in some field or the other at the undergrad level. Undergrad study should build a strong foundation. It's the most important thing that we have contributed or continue to contribute and continue. As I crow about it from the rooftops. And parents come in and say sometimes, "I want to do digital, marketing." I said, "Well, beta, don't look at digital marketing as a undergrad qualification. Look at something. What does digital marketing come out of?
Correct.
So look at that foundation, build a strong foundation. If you want to build a 100 floor building, you can't build it on a foundation that can only support 2 stories or 3 stories. And what happens if this artificial intelligence and digitization factor blows away the area that you're looking at? What are you going to do then? So these are very difficult questions, but it's better to ask those difficult questions at the early stages, And I really think that career planning, the conversation should begin in year 9.
Yes.
In fact, one of our school principals said to me just the other day, "Mr. Chopra, I think year 8." And I said, yes, year 8 is even better. But year 9, definitely, there is the first time. In year 10, the subject choices that the student makes are what's going to determine the choice palette in your careers. That's where you're going to be making your career choices, because the subjects you've studied is what's going to give you the course options at university. So this is the critical part of the conversation, and that is when a student and parents and schools indeed need to have the widest possible conversation with people who have that integrity and intent, and to sort of see all the doors and windows need to be open. All kinds of influences need to be let in. All kinds of conversations need to happen. That's how I see it anyway.
Yeah, so that answers my next question, that it's not just academics which are important these days. It's like students need to have for having a strong application, there are many other things students need to focus. So I would like to ask you, what are the other ways students can kind of enhance their application or make it strong, and what other areas, transferable skills the students should be looking at?
As you know, the United States application process probably is the most complex of all and comprehensive, complex and comprehensive of all the application processes amongst all the other countries. Because in the US, they just don't look at the academics, they look at the student holistically and see what else the students, bringing to the table, and how will that student contribute into the cohort. Almost or pretty much every other country is doing that more or less solely on the basis of the academic achievement. So in the UK, they will not look at the fact that you're a brilliant singer. In the US, they will.
They will.
Okay. In the UK, they won't look at the admissions tutor will not look at that you've done a lot of social work in the time that you've been, at school, and you have got this passion for social work and contributing to society. In the US, they will. So it depends again on the country, but generally, as a broad-based advice, I think let me let me let me take it from a slightly different perspective. All of us, all kids, all babies are born lateral thinkers. That's a statement I'm making. Anyone who has had children, do you have kids?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Then you will recognize this, that a child's curiosity and is immense. The child is looking at everything. So that child is a lateral thinker in that sense, because the full picture is there in the child's head. But we then, society, we parents, we start to iron that out of the child. Don't do this, don't do that, don't go here, don't go there. So we then convert that lateral thinker into a linear thinker, straight line thinking. Now the world has changed. Though what the world needs is we are in lateral thinkers. So the first thing that has to happen for children is to start the process of re-becoming lateral thinkers. And actually, the STEM courses, the strong foundation building courses do that. I mean, even something like English literature is a very strong foundation building program, because it does develop lateral thinking in you. I mean, in actual fact, something like history. People sometimes will stop dead when I say history is a very strong foundation building subject, and the demand for histories has been going down and down and down and down. I mean, people say, what history? What am I going to do with history? I mean, what's the point of learning the dates of what things happened and what happened in the past? But what people don't realize, that history, if it is studied or read in the right way and it is taught in the right way, which is there in most Western institutions, history is such a strong subject because it encompasses within its study social science, psychology, economics, war, strategy. It has got all of those things. So, for example, what was the social milieu of that made the French Revolution happen? What was happening at that time? What was the thinking of the nobility, and why? What were the factors that were at work that made this happen? What was the psychology of the rulers? What was the psychology of the people who picked up their? So do you know what I'm saying? What was the economic condition? What were the forces that made it happen? So when you read it like that, history becomes a very strong subject. So that is what students need to do, is to pick first and foremost in today's world. I would be saying to them, please stop being on social media and watching the dance and song and laughing about it and, wasting your time. Do it, sure, but within a certain limit. Read more than you do, because when you read, you become all the characters. When you read a book, you read a novel, you read anything, you become all the characters. Your mind start to think, your brain cells start to function. And you, as an educator, must have come across this data that's been published in various countries, that in the last decade, IQ levels seem to have dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And that is happening because of the overuse of television and digital media. So first advice I would be saying to students is that, please, for God's sake, get away from that. Time is finite. I would be saying to parents that you should be spending more time with your children, having conversations and taking them out, doing things together a lot more. I don't know if this is an area that I'm entering a sensitive area. But I think that these kinds of things are it's a whole package that makes up the human that develops.
Totally agree. Nowadays, we usually see that students are on social media and less of reading books. And when I always take a bus when I go to school, and I can see that all the children are there on their phones, and there'll be hardly one or two among the whole group who would be taking out a book and reading. So yeah, of course, that reading culture somehow we are losing. Thank you so much for that wonderful conversations. I mean, most of our, what a student might have questions at this stage. I think we have kind of addressed all of them. Thank you, Tanya, for being with us, and thank you, Mr. Chopra, once more.
You're very welcome. Thank you for talking to me. God bless you.
Thankful to Ms. Seema. I extend my heartful gratitude to you to join us today with your presence for this program. I'm sure students are going to actually get a lot of knowledge out of what we discussed with Mr. Chopra. Chopra, sir, we are honored to have you with us. Your journey spanning horizons, continents, is going to be a testament for the power of knowledge and innovation for the students. I'm sure, Seema, you will agree with me on that.
Thank you
Yes,
so
yes,
much.
100%.
Happy to help in any way, shape, or form. Yeah.
Like, share, and subscribe. Turn on the bell notifications for daily updates.